Hi, it's been a long time since I've actually done a video, so I thought I'd go ahead and spend a little extra time today. In today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to explore the Power BI, the cloud service, not the Power BI desktop application. If possible, I'll probably be doing another video explaining the Power BI desktop as well, but for the most part, the features are definitely the same. Before we get started, probably a good idea would be to do an introduction of Power BI. And essentially, what Power BI is a reporting tool. It's a visualization tool where you can upload your data and create good looking graphs and charts and represent your data in a way that's easy to understand. Now, there are already quite a few other reporting applications out there, but Power BI is Microsoft's first real attempt at really capturing the reporting market. Previously, the way that we used to do it was a lot of us used to go ahead and do our reporting using Excel or even reporting services, which was a feature inside Microsoft SQL Server. However, both of these did not really give the powerful representation of data that we've gotten used to with some of the other tools like Tableau, MicroStrategy, etc. And with Power BI, Microsoft is trying to address that issue. And for the most part, it looks like it's a good success because it's easy to learn, it's easy to use, and it does give you some really good visualizations. And there's also the ability to integrate with a lot of other applications. You can connect to a variety of data sources like SQL Server, analysis services, Oracle, etc. And at the same time, it's also very good in terms of representing the data in a format that's easy to use on other devices, mobile devices, things like that. So without any further ado, let's get started with Power BI. Now, obviously, the first thing you need to do with Power BI or to work with Power BI is you need to have data. In this example, what I'm doing is I'm actually using data from feedback that I've collected over the trainings that I've been doing for the last couple of years. So you'll see that I've got the name of the training, the date, the venue, the trainer name, the level of the course, L1, L2, L3. I've got usernames and passwords. I've got the training rating, which is a number from 1 to 5. And then I've also got a description which kind of explains if the training was a good training or a bad training, things like that. And obviously I've got questions for which these feedback answers were provided. And that's for the most part really the data that I have. So the important thing with Power BI is it doesn't really allow you to do a lot of the calculation and things like that that you would be used to. So the idea here is that you need to do those things with your data in advance and keep it ready before you can actually use it with Power BI. A simple example would be I intend to do a chart where I'll be trying to figure out how many trainings I do on a monthly basis. And in order to do that, I need to actually extract the year and the month from the date that we have over here. So I've gone ahead and done that. If you see over here, I've got like the year, the month, and then the domain and other details like that. So the intention here is basically you need to prepare the data before you can actually use it inside Power BI. Obviously, the other way that you could do it is you have Power Pivot, etc., that's available inside Excel, which allows you to use DAX or analytical functions, which also have a lot of powerful functionality behind it in terms of data analytics and things like that. So, essentially, the first thing you need to do is prepare your data. Now, most of the time, the data that we prepare would look something like this. It'll just look like a standard Excel sheet, but you cannot upload this data as is into Power BI. You need to format it as a table, which is kind of silly because it is a table at the end of the day, and it seems that Power BI should be able to intuitively understand that this is a table. But having said that, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll just upload this data into Power BI. So the first thing is you need to log into the Power BI website. So you can go to Google and you can type in Power BI, and it's got a paid version as well as a free version. So I'm going to use the free version because I've already used up my paid version. So you can just click the button here that says sign up for free. You can also go ahead and experiment with the paid version for about 60 days, I think. So when you log into the Power BI website, this is what you're going to see. For the most part, you can see that you got a dashboard kind of scenario here. If you click this button over here, you'll see that this is mainly the area where you'll be working with your data. So now that we have the Excel sheet prepared, the first thing we need to do is make it a data set. So if you look here, we've got this get data button here. uh, when you click on it, you can see that you got content packs, which is a concept inside Power BI where you can share your reports, etc. And then you can also choose connect or import data. Now in my case, the data is inside an Excel file, so I'm going to be using files, but as you can see, we also have the option to connect to databases. So when I click files, you can see there's a local file. You can also upload your files into OneDrive, SharePoint, etc. So I'll go ahead, click local file, and once I've done that, if I scroll down, you'll see that I've got a file called feedback. So I'm just going to create, just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and just rename this so I can create it as a new file or a new data source. I'm going to call this feedback1. Okay, well, I'm using it right now, so let me just go ahead and close this first, and I'll just rename this to feedback1. Just a second. So I'm going to upload this file into Power BI, and once I do that, I get the option saying upload or import. In this case, I want to go ahead and import it, because if I choose upload, it's just going to represent the data like an Excel file, and that doesn't really help me to create the charts and stuff like that I want to do. So I'll click import, and depending on the size of the file, this can take a few seconds to actually get loaded. But once it's done, you'll see that I've got feedback1.xls, which is the dataset that I've uploaded. Once the dataset is uploaded, the next thing is you can go ahead and create your reports. So if you go ahead and click over here on reports, or if you come over here and click on feedback.xls, what happens is that you get this big white screen, which is kind of the layout or the canvas on which you will be creating your reports. Additionally, reports can obviously be of multiple frames, pages. So I could call this guy like the main report or report 1, and then I can, as you can see here, we've got a list of all the fields, the columns inside my Excel sheet, and they're ordered alphabetically. And a simple thing would be if I wanted to do the example that I mentioned earlier, where I choose a month and then I can choose the rating. You'll see that immediately I get a chart that's showing me the breakup of the rating on a monthly basis. However, because this is a number, it's summing up the numbers, whereas I want an average, so I'll go ahead and do an average here. At this point, you can see that out of 5, the ratings are typically above 4, and that's essentially what Power BI can do for you. It's very easy to use, and from that perspective, you can see that as soon as you select stuff, it automatically becomes a nice, good-looking graph on the the sheet. However, the other thing is that Power BI allows you to create interactive reports, and this is a pretty big deal because this is not something that we can do with the server-side technologies that we have in terms of reporting services, etc. The best example of this would be, at this moment, this shows me the feedback over all the years, whereas I would probably like to see this data on a specific year-by-year basis. So at that point, what I can do is, if you see here, we've got this slicer. If I click the slicer over here, actually just a second, I'll click outside the report because I want to add a separate component called a slicer. And when I've done this, I can come over here and click the fiscal year. And now what happens is that if I click 2014, you'll see that it shows me only the data for 2014. And if I click 2015, it shows me the data for 2015 and then 2016. So this way I'm able to actually break up the data by allowing the user to select certain parameters, and based on those parameters we can actually see how the rest of the report kind of behaves. And this is good for us because another thing I could probably do is I could go ahead and put in a map. Actually, just a second. So when I put a map, obviously you can see we've got latitude, longitude, size, color saturation, legend, location, things like that, which is all typical stuff you'd expect from a map. In this example, what I'll do is I've got a field called venue, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. And as soon as I put venue there, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a count of course ID. So the course ID is going to be my size, and venue is going to be my location. And as soon as I do that, you'll see that it identifies the locations in India. It really understands the name of the location, and based on that it plots the data on the chart, and you'll see that even the map is interactive, so you can actually zoom in, zoom out, or even scroll to the left and right if you have multiple geographies and things like that. So as you can see, the map is actually a pretty nice control to display a lot of information, especially information that has some geographic component associated with it. The next thing I want to show you, with which we'll kind of wind up this video, is how Power BI can actually be interactive in terms of how the other charts and components behave. A simple example would be if I click 2005, you'll see that even the map as well as the pie chart, the column chart, both of them automatically adjust their values. And this is good for us because this way the user can select one particular aspect in the slicer, and all the other components within the report automatically adjust themselves to reflect only that piece of data. And this is actually controlled by this button here called Visual Interactions. And when you click, you'll see that you've got like a filter, and then you got none. There's also one more that you'll typically see if you have additional components as well. And the idea here is that if you go ahead and do none, what happens is that you'll see that when I do none, the pie chart, the column chart doesn't actually change in spite of the fact that the map changes. So you can actually control the behavior so that certain charts do not actually do anything if you interact with them, whereas others do. And this is actually a big deal because there are certain things that you want to represent as a dashboard, which is like maybe a KPI or something that's going to be the same regardless of what you slice and dice on. And then there are going to be other reports that are going to be more granular or more specific. So you get to control that behavior within Power BI. And the fact that it's interactive allows you to create one report that will actually be able to service the needs of multiple departments or organization business units within your company. And that makes life a lot easier because everybody's using a standard set of reports. This is what Power BI can do for you, and obviously when you save it you can share it with others as well. Simple example would be if I click save over here, I can give this report a name like main report, and once that's done, I can actually go ahead and share this with others within the organization. So essentially what we can do is you have this option called publish to web, and if I click this I will get code that's like iframe, and I can copy paste this into any website. The best example I can give you of this is if you come to my company website right now, and if you go to services and trainings, you'll see that I've actually added something called training feedback report, which is kind of like a modal JavaScript. So when I click on this, you'll see I get a pop-up inside which I've got my Power BI report. You'll see that I've got like two reports here, so I can click page 1 of 2, and you'll see that a lot of the information that I've already extracted from within the Power BI Excel sheet are displayed here. And this kind of functionality is what really helps Power BI shine, because it allows you to go ahead and work with your reports in a way that's very easy to use, and you can actually start making decisions a lot sooner. And this kind of implementation is what self-service BI is all about, where the reporting power is actually handed over to the business user so that they don't really need to be very tech savvy, and they don't need to install a lot of stuff, they don't need to know how to configure a lot of stuff. They can just go ahead and work off it using whatever basic knowledge they have, uh, uh, based on their previous experience with SQL or even Excel. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and this is basically what Power BI is. And obviously in the next video what we'll do is we'll try and cover Power BI desktop application. But before we do that, let me just give you a quick preview so that you can see how similar it is to the existing Power BI. And that's pretty much where Power BI desktop becomes useful, because while it's got all the features, it's installed locally on your laptop, so things are a lot more responsive, they work a lot faster because you're not dependent on internet connection speed and things like that. But yeah, this is the Power BI desktop application. As you can see, if you're really interested in trying it out on your own, once you log into Power BI, the cloud web app, you can actually just click the download button here, and you can see Gateway, Power BI Desktop, Power BI for mobile, etc. And you can just go ahead and use that. Well, once again, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you some comfort level in terms of using Power BI, and I'd really encourage most people to try this out because it's really exciting to work with. It's very easy to use, and you can really get some insights based on it. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching.